You got a raise last year. Maybe it was $5,000. Maybe it was $10,000. You remember the moment you found out. That feeling, relief, validation, the sense that things were finally going to be a little easier. You told yourself this was the one that would make a difference. And then 12 months passed, and you're sitting here right now with more income than you've ever had in your life, checking your bank account before a grocery run the same way you did 3 years ago. Nothing changed. And the terrifying part isn't that you spent the money. The terrifying part is that you genuinely cannot explain where it went. I'm Cave, and today we're going to talk about something that 51% of Americans are living right now without understanding why. It's not a spending problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's not even an income problem. It's a system that was specifically designed to make sure that every dollar you earn gets claimed before you even decide what to do with it. And once you see how it works, you cannot unsee it. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, hit subscribe before you keep watching. We do this every week. No hype, no get rich quick, just the math and the mechanics they don't teach you anywhere else. Let's start with the number that should bother you more than it does. According to Ramsey Solutions, 51% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck. That's not 51% of people who are broke. That's 51% of people across all income levels, including households making 6 figures, including people who by every external measure look financially successful. And according to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, 40% of households earning $500,000 a year or more still report feeling like they're living paycheck to paycheck. Read that again. $500,000 a year, paycheck to paycheck. If the problem were simply not earning enough, that number would be impossible. It's not impossible. It's everywhere, which tells you the problem isn't the size of the paycheck. It's what happens to it the moment it arrives. Meet Jordan. He's 32, project manager at a mid-sized company, $78,000 a year. On paper, he's doing fine. He's in the top 35% of earners in this country. When he got this job 4 years ago, it felt like he'd made it. So let's watch what actually happened to his money from day one. Jordan accepted the job. And the first thing that happened, the very first thing, before he even deposited a paycheck, is that his expenses adjusted to meet his new income. He moved out of his shared apartment because he could finally afford his own place. $1,350 a month instead of $650. He got a better car because the old one was unreliable and he couldn't risk being late to the new job. $420 a month. He started eating out more because he was working harder and he deserved it. Another $200 a month on top of groceries. This wasn't recklessness. Every single one of those decisions felt completely justified in the moment. And that's the mechanism. The system doesn't need to force anything. It just presents options that feel logical at exactly the moment you have the money to afford them. Economists call this lifestyle inflation. But that name makes it sound passive, like something that just happens. What it actually is a trap with a timer. Because here's what Jordan's budget looks like now. Gross income $78,000. After federal taxes, state taxes, and FISA, he's taking home around $4,850 a month. That's his actual money. Now let's watch it disappear. Rent, $1,350. Car payment, $420. Car insurance, $180. Gas, $160. Groceries, $380. Dining out and coffee, $260. Phone, $85. Streaming subscriptions. He signed up for one at a time. $94. Internet, $65. Utilities, $140. Student loan payment, $320. Gym membership he uses twice a month, $45. That's $3,499 gone. Jordan has $1,351 left. No emergency fund contribution, no investment, no retirement beyond whatever his employer matches. Just $1,351 that will quietly vanish into birthday gifts and Amazon purchases and that one weekend he needed to decompress. Jordan is not irresponsible. Jordan does not have a boat. Jordan has never been to Europe. Jordan is a completely normal, reasonably disciplined adult who did everything he was supposed to do. Got the degree, got the job, works hard. And he is one car repair away from going into credit card debt at any given moment. This is not an edge case. This is the median American experience in 2026. Now here's where it gets darker. Jordan gets a promotion, $88,000 a year, a $10,000 raise. This should change things. And it does change things, just not in the direction Jordan expects. The raise feels like permission. Permission to move to the slightly nicer apartment when the lease is up. Permission to finally trade in the car that's been making that noise. Permission to say yes to the weekend trip his friends have been planning. Each one of those decisions is individually defensible. Together, they consume the entire raise within 18 months. Jordan's monthly expenses expand from $3,499 to roughly $4,300. His take-home went up by about $550 a month. His expenses went up by $800. He is now further behind than he was before the raise. Not because he's stupid, not because he lacks self-control, but because the system is specifically engineered to make expansion feel like progress while keeping the gap between income and actual wealth exactly where it was. This is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You work harder to get to the next level. The next level feels good for about 90 days. Then it becomes your new normal. And you're running again. The treadmill doesn't care how fast you go. It just keeps moving at the same speed. And here's the part of this conversation that most financial creators skip because it's uncomfortable. The system isn't abstract. It has specific beneficiaries. When Jordan signs that new lease at $1,650 instead of $1,350, somebody wins. When he finances a $32,000 car instead of buying a $12,000 car with cash, somebody wins. When he carries a $4,200 credit card balance at 22% interest because his emergency fund doesn't exist, somebody wins very specifically. The landlord, the bank, the car company, the credit card issuer. They all have the same business model. Keep Jordan's expenses as close to his income as possible, because a Jordan with no surplus is a Jordan who needs them indefinitely. Your comfort is their revenue stream. The apartment complex is not rooting for you to build wealth. The dealership is not rooting for you to retire early. They are rooting for you to sign the next contract. Here's the test. Right now, if you lost your job tomorrow, not eventually, tomorrow, how many months could you survive without changing anything about your lifestyle? Be honest. According to civic science data from early 2026, 76% of Americans have little to no financial safety net. 21% have nothing left after each paycheck. Zero. Not a small cushion. Literally zero. And 55% say they only have a little left over. Which means most people reading this are somewhere between 1 and 3 months from a financial crisis at any given moment. That's not security. That's a very comfortable, very convincing version of broke. Now here's what the original version of this conversation usually gets wrong. And this is where I want to be precise with you. The problem is not your salary. The problem is not your job. A stable income is not your enemy. The hedonic treadmill is your enemy. And the difference matters enormously, because one of them you can actually do something about starting today. Quitting your job doesn't fix this. Making more money doesn't fix this. Jordan just proved that. What fixes this is understanding the single number that determines your actual financial future. The gap, not your income. The gap between your income and your expenses. That number is the only one that matters. A household earning $60,000 with $1,500 a month in surplus is building more real wealth than a household earning $150,000 with no surplus. Every month. Compounding. Because a dollar invested at $25 becomes roughly $21 by the time you're 65 at historical market returns. A dollar spent on a subscription you forgot about is just gone. The math doesn't care how impressive your salary sounds at a dinner party. So let's talk about what Jordan actually does. Not the fantasy version where he moves to a cabin and grows his own food. The realistic version, because the 1.3K liked comment on a video about this exact topic said it better than most financial advisors do. Buy a small house next to work and pay it off. Sell the car with payments and buy a reliable used car. Bring your lunch. Cancel the subscriptions you signed up for one at a time and never audited. Those 4 things alone could free up between $600 and $900 a month for Jordan. That's not sacrifice. That's surgery. You're removing the part of your lifestyle that was never actually improving your life. It was just filling space the raise created. Here's what Jordan does with that $700 a month. And I want to be specific, because vague advice is how people end up doing nothing. First, he builds 3 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. Right now in 2026, those accounts are paying 4% to 4.2%. That money works while it sits there. This step isn't optional. Without it, every financial plan you make is one emergency away from collapse. Second, he contributes enough to his 401k to capture the full employer match. That match is a guaranteed 50% to 100% return on those dollars before the market does anything. There is no investment on earth that competes with that. Third, he opens a Roth IRA and contributes $7,000 a year, $583 a month. That money grows completely tax-free. The IRS never touches the gains. On $583 a month starting at 32, at historical 8% returns, Jordan has $1.2 million by 65. Not because he got rich, because he stopped letting the gap close. The fourth thing, and this is the one most people skip, is that Jordan consciously freezes his lifestyle every time he gets a raise. Not permanently, not forever, just for long enough to redirect the difference. 1 year of treating a raise like it doesn't exist and putting it directly into index funds changes Jordan's retirement picture by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The raise doesn't disappear. It just goes somewhere that actually works for him instead of for his landlord. Here's what I want you to actually hear. You are not broke because you're not trying hard enough. You are not broke because you made bad decisions. You are living inside a system that generates enormous profits from the specific condition of you spending everything you earn, and it is very good at making that feel normal. The hedonic treadmill is real, it's documented, and it's working on you right now whether you feel it or not. But here's the thing about a treadmill. You can step off. The people who build actual wealth, not salary, not income wealth, are not the highest earners. They are almost universally the people who at some point decided to stop letting their expenses chase their income. They froze the lifestyle. They widened the gap. They let compound interest do the work that over time was never going to do. The math on your side is the same math that's been working against you. The only question is which direction you aim it. Jordan exists in millions of variations across this country right now. Different salaries, different cities, same trap, same treadmill, same feeling of running hard and staying exactly in place. Well, you just spent 15 minutes understanding exactly why. That's the whole difference between seeing the system and living inside it without knowing it's there. What you do with that understanding is up to you. But you can't unknow this now.